channel, my name's Sam Lemming. I play musical instruments and fly wingsuits. For musical stuff, subscribe here. For wingsuiting stuff, check out here. Thanks very much. In this video, I'm going to show you how to change a chord pattern or transpose a chord pattern into a sweep picking arpeggio. So say for example in your band, you write a little chord pattern that you dig and like. So say for example something like this. Change it into I'm going to show you how to do that. So a thing to note is all I'm going to talk about here is about major and minor sweep picking arpeggios. Just learn about that first before you check out any more complicated shapes and such. All major and minor chords are only actually made up of 3 different notes. All the other notes that are involved in the chord are octaves or unisons. So for example, in the shape of a C major, you've only actually got C, E and G. The extra 2 notes that you play on the upper strings are the B first fret, which is a note of C, so an octave of the first note, and the high E, which is an octave of the 2nd fret on the D string. An important thing to realise as well is that a lot of the really cool sounds you hear that have huge arpeggios going over songs are usually synonymous with this. They're usually just 3-note things that then octave over a lot of repeats. For example, the 2 chords I just used, I just ripped from Muse's Bliss, which is a... And any of you that know that song know it has that huge scaling arpeggio that goes up and down, which is basically just a set of 3 notes, then played an octave higher, then played an octave higher. Okay, if I put them together. You get that really nice huge chord arpeggio sound. So how you work those out? Number 1, I got another video released just before this which shows you how to find where all your notes are on your guitar and a little bit about the musical alphabet. Where are your A's on the neck, where are your B's, C's, G's, all your sharps, blah 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 blah. Check that out and try and memorize everything in that before trying this. It'll make things a little bit easier. Now when we're playing most of our chords, as I said, there's only 3 different notes in major and minor shapes. That is the same for the sweep picking side of things when we change to sweep picking arpeggios. For example, one of the most simple basic examples I can give you in a very nice satisfying shape is if you think of your chord of C major, those upper 3 notes, most sweep picking arpeggios are up really high. Of course we can do them anywhere where we want. I'm just going to be talking about the upper 3 strings just for the sake of simplicity in this lesson, so the G, B and E. If I make that an octave higher by playing it 12 frets higher, what I can do is I can change this into a sweep picking arpeggio. An important thing about sweep picking, of course, is that we don't let the notes ring together or else you kind of lose that sensation of speed. So for example, it just sounds like I'm strumming a chord instead of... Now, what I'm doing there in order to get there's an extra note, what defines that note is we've already got 3 different notes. We've got G, C and E. The B string 1st fret or 13th fret is a note of C. The 12th fret is the octave of the open note. So we got G, C and E. Out of those 3 notes, if I want to find the next note that is closest to that high E, but not super far away, so I don't want to... That could sound cool, but it's quite a big stretch and not really very practical. If I want the most sort of compressed chord, if I can call it that, what we do is, in the case of these different 3 notes, we take the lowest pitch one and we make it an octave higher. So as you'll have learned from my previous video if you've checked that out, if we play the G string on the 12th fret, if we go 2 strings higher but 3 frets higher, we get an octave of that note. And that's going to serve as our kind of like turnaround note where we go up in pitch through the arpeggio and then we go back down. So what's happening with this one is and a really common pattern is down, down, down for 12, 13, 12, up pick the 15th fret on the high E and pull off to the 12th fret note that you just played on the E, and then up pick the B. So it's a 6-note pattern, so it's in triplets. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Sounds like this. And that's a simple C major shape. The important thing to note is that any chord you ever play, if you move it up or down, the chord is still the same flavour. It's still a major chord, it's still a minor chord, just the note name changes. So for example, if I play a chord of B major, if I move that fret up it becomes a C. It's a C major chord. If I move up 2 frets that becomes a D major chord. The most common shape is this one here, which you can hear sounds very, very, very similar. Okay, the same happens with sweep picking arpeggios. And from learning this, you'll notice a lot of nice little coincidences and crossovers. For example, in a chord of C, if you play those upper 3 notes, 2 frets higher, so instead of open 1 open, if you play 2 3 2, voila, you have your shape of D. Okay, so for the sweep picking arpeggio I just played, if I move that 2 frets higher, I've now got a D major sweep. That's only one shape though. A lot of the shapes that you can get basically just bastardized or changed from, taken from the top 3 notes of your basic chords. Okay, there are some cases where it doesn't work out so nice, but an A minor is another really great one. So you got 2 1 open. If I make that 12 frets higher, okay, and to make that turnaround note, I'm on the 14th fret of the G, because we've only got 3 notes there. We can sweep pick like this, but it's usually a bit nicer to have that extra little note on the end. That extra note is 2 strings up and 3 frets up to find the octave of the lowest pitch note. The lowest pitch note is the 14th fret of the G, so then we get that shape. Okay, so now we've got an A minor sweep. If I move that 2 frets higher, it's a B minor sweep. For any Dream fanatics, that is the first sweep in the song Glass Prison. And then this one here is a G major, by the way. No, sorry, an E minor, sorry, I apologise. Because it involves 12, 12, 12, which is exactly the same as open, open, open from your E minor chord. So there's a bit about how you can find the chords from 3 string shapes. Now what about expanding that and making weird 5 string shapes, etc, etc, etc. To expand that, you really need to know the rules of how to find your octaves on your guitar, as mentioned in my previous video. And the shape I'm going to use is a D minor shape, really one of the easiest shapes you can play and a really cool sound. So it's a normal D minor, 12 frets higher. Now I'm not going to use the open note. And if I wanted to convert this into a 5 string shape, I already know how to play it, of course, but let's say for example I've never done it before. I'm going to do this sweep in a slightly different fashion. Instead of going from the low note to the high, I'm going to go from the high to the low, because in a moment we're going to have some extra notes. So first note, we already have an octave lower version of that note, which is the final version of the final note of the sweep. 17 to 13. On the E string, which is a pull-off and a downstroke, and then we've got up, up, which is 15 and 14 on the B, then the G. So that 14th fret note is an octave of the 17th fret. So I've already used up that octaving option, if I can call it that. The second note in the sweep is the 13th fret on the E string, which is a note of F, because the 12th fret on the E is an octave of the open notes, so 1 fret higher is an F. The octave of that, if I want to place the next note upon the D string, because I've already sweeped the previous strings, then you'll notice that if you do a chord of F, like what you do on the 1st fret, if you move this an octave higher, the note your pinky plays and the note you're barring, the index finger note on the high E, is actually an octave. So that's going to be the next note we add. If you think of the open D, sorry, the 12th fret on the D, which is the same as the open D, theoretically in a way. We've got D sharp on the next fret up, which is 13. Next fret is E, and then 1 more fret is F. So now I've got a 4 string sweep. Okay, now I want to add in a note on the A string. I've already used up the 13th fret note, so the next note in the sweep is the 15th fret on the B string. So if I make that an octave lower, and I want that particular note that is an octave lower of this to be on the A string, I'm going to use that same shape rule. It's kind of like if you play a chord of C, one of the best ways of remembering it, if you play a chord of C, it's that interval between your index finger on the 1st fret of the B and your ring finger on the 3rd fret of the A. Okay, if I bring that all the way up here, to the 15th fret for my index finger, I can see that the 17th fret of the A string is an octave of that. Now I've got a 5-string sweep. Excuse me. Now on the A string, in most 5-string sweep shapes, we also add a little turnaround note in here. A note that's going to be the low pitch note that's going to then send us back up the arpeggio afterwards. It's usually done on the same string because we've used up our fingers, and our spare fingers are on the lower end of the neck, which isn't going to bode well for the next note, which will probably be somewhere around about this area, or sometimes a little bit higher, but all our fingers are this side. So it can be a little bit of a stretch sometimes, but it's quite a common thing that you get used to. So the next note I want to do, I've octaved these notes, these notes, these notes, these notes. Now the 14th fret note on the G is a note of A, and that is going to be the note that I octave on the 12th fret of the A string, which is of course an octave of the low note. And now this is my turnaround note. So if I play the full arpeggio, I'm going to down pick the 17th fret on the high E string, fingering it with my pinky. I'm going to pull off to the 13th fret on the same string. Then I'm going to up pick the B string 15th fret. So that's my 3 notes of the arpeggio. Now that I'm going to do an octave below version, which is the 14th fret on the G, then the 15th fret on the D, the 17th fret on the A, and then I'm going to take the final note of the arpeggio, which is the 12th fret, and those were all up picks by the way, sweeping. Then I'm going to down pick the 12th fret on the A string, hammer on to the 17th fret of the A, and then go back through all the notes I just played. So on the D, I've got 15 and 14 on the G, 15 on the B, and then 13 on the high E. If I put that together, and you can hear you get a really nice arpeggio out of that. And even slow, they sound really, really cool. That is one of the most basic shapes you can learn for a 5-string suite. There's tons of others and many, many more options that you can invent yourself. I'll keep it brief there. Feel free to give me suggestions for follow-up lessons, and if anything wasn't clear, let me know and I'm happy to explain. Hope you enjoyed the video and learned something new. All the best, keep practicing. Cheerio for now.